mm, and really getting to know all the people at the firm. So before I go through a little bit more of what the summer entails, I do want to pass it over to our panelists to have them introduce themselves today and tell them a little bit more about themselves.
Sure, I can kick it off. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Yeager. I'm a senior business analyst out of the New York office. I'm aligned to the SOP, the Strategic Operations Practice. I interned in 2020, so I've been at Kearney for about a year and a half now. And when I interned, I was on a supplier risk management project for a health company. So a mix of strategic operations and our health practice.
Hey everyone, my name's Justice. I summered in 2022, so last year, and then rejoined the firm in January in our Atlanta office as a part of our analytics practice. During the summer, I worked on a supply chain transformation for a big food and beverage company, which was a lot of fun.
Everyone. I'm Janai Fuller. I'm a business analyst out of the Atlanta office, and I interned, well, I'm part of the general practice in the SOP PDB program, which I will just highlight slightly um, during my time. And then I went to school in Oglethorpe University. When I was a summer, I was there in 2021, so it was actually a virtual time. And I worked on a pre-merger integration for a major food slash vitamin company, and it was basically like a strategic operations practice project. And my favorite memory was going to a winery for the first time. So there's definitely a lot of fun events that I definitely want you guys to attend.
Thank you so much. You will be hearing more from them very shortly. So our summer is a 10-week program. Again, we want to immerse you in the consulting lifestyle and also give you those opportunities. You start off your internship onboarding at your local office. You are also assigned a mentor that will provide you with guidance throughout the summer. Um, After your onboarding, you will be going to our consulting skills awareness training, which is usually in Chicago. There, you'll get some more formal opportunities to understand the platforms we're using at Kearney and some more training pieces to help you get ready for, for staffing. From there, you will be staffed on a project, and from the second week to your 10 week, you'll be working with a team, as I mentioned. Um, During, halfway through, we do a more formal check in and we provide feedback on how you are doing through the summer, and give you the opportunity to, develop your skill sets and understand how you are performing amongst the team. Um, the week before your final week, you have the opportunity to do a final presentation. You'll be doing that in front of some of our senior leaders, and giving you the and your project team and your mentor. And it gives you the opportunity to showcase what you've done throughout the summer. And then on your final week, you will be receiving a final evaluation. And you'll also be receiving information on offer decisions, usually during your exit interviews. So that's just very high level, what the timeline looks like for the summer program. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. Talked about the summer program, but also want to talk a little bit about, our practices, and the selection of offices when we are thinking about um, applying here at Kearney and what that looks like. Um, you've done an overview, you understand Kearney's opportunities, practices, industries, but what does it look like when you want to apply? And I think our panelists will also share a little bit more about the practices so that you can understand when you're looking to apply at Kearney, what those practices and what our consultants are doing in those practices. Um, So you will have, during your application process, the ability to select your office location. We work on a national staffing model. So one thing about office location is we are not hiring based on our needs per office. This is really for you to decide where you would like to be over the summer. So it's up to you to pick the office that you would like to be in. So that being said, you'll be able to pick between your first choice and your second choice. Um, so that will be listed in your application. The other thing that you'll be asked to pick and rank are your practice selections. And we will go over those a little bit more in detail here, and I'll have our panelists walk you through. But the goal is to have you select which practice that you would like to be first interviewing for, and then obviously also, picking like your second and third choices. General practice, we won't go into too much detail here, but there is no practice alignment. Your role is to work across industries and functions. We do have an analytics practice that we'll talk more about, and our strategic operations practice as well. Um, you will be notified how you are being interviewed. So if you are selected for interviews, we will let you know um, which practice you have been selected to interview for. That being said, that would be the practice that you would be coming on and joining for the summer, and that would also be the practice that you would receive a full-time offer for. So as you think about it, it's really important to make sure you understand what you're applying for and what the needs are of the practice, because we do not, once you start the interview process, we do not change that, even through your summer internship and for full-time hiring. That would be where you're aligned. That being said, we have a lot of consultants within the firm that don't stay in a practice, for forever. And there are opportunities as you get to know the firm to get to be able to work in different practices. But that's something that you would navigate as you create tenure at the firm, as opposed to just coming on and as a new business analyst. I think I'm going to pass this over to Justice just to give us a quick update on our offices again, and some of the other things that Kearney has to offer.
Yeah, so we've got quite a few offices spread out across the US and Canada as well. A couple in Mexico City, although those aren't necessarily eligible for the summer program. But we're from East Coast to West Coast, and you get the opportunity to go see a lot of different cities during your summer program. So, for example, I'm based out of Atlanta and was for my summer program as well. But I was able to go work in the Chicago, Toronto, and New York offices, which are all really nice as well. So you get to see a lot of what Kearney has to offer. I don't know if Emily or maybe Janai want to chime in with which offices they like to work out of the most.
Yeah, one thing that I want to point out that I think is really unique about Kearney is the project and the team that you work for is not based on the location that you're actually, whatever location you choose. So it's fully based on your previous work experience and your interests, which is not usually the case for most consulting firms. So for example, I'm out of the New York office, but a lot of my projects, since I'm in SOP, are in manufacturing in like rural areas. So it's closer to Chicago. So a lot of times we'll co-locate in Chicago, then go to whatever smaller town that we are actually based out of. But out of all the offices, New York and Chicago definitely have the biggest group of people. So you can definitely feel the energy of Kearney at those two offices, I think, more than the others.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say, like more recently, I've been able to get out to a few more. Every office has its own personality, I feel like. So, for example, last week I was in the DC office, and like what you imagine, it feels very presidential. And then you go to Atlanta, it's kind of more homey and southern, and Chicago has that kind of like that work, like I would say like kind of like that more like blue collar feel. But then you go to New York, it's kind of fast. And the New York office and Times Square. So you definitely are like in the city wherever your office is, and it is really fun. So definitely when you're choosing which office you want to be aligned to, if you're open to travel and new experiences, I definitely would maybe even venture to go to a different office that's not your home location. So, so yeah, speaking of different offices, we definitely have a lot of different practices as well. So, um, as you can see on the screen, there are a lot of different practices, and not just not just practices. There's different. They're separated by different types. So, you'll see on the screen that there are industries practices and then service practices. Essentially, the way I kind of think about them is service practices are practices that you can basically do in most of the industry. These are more of like the type of work, not necessarily like industry specific information that you're going to be working on as a guarantee in the service practice. Whereas aerospace and defense, for example, like you're going to be solely talking that language if you're in that practice. And I found in my experience as a generalist myself, I worked across many different industry practices, but also different service practices as well. And essentially, um, like a lot of them converge. So, for example, I got to work on an energy project, but it had elements of procurement. So, there's definitely a lot of room to grow and a lot of industries to explore, especially if you do align to a generalist practice. You kind of have the benefit of not kind of feeling like you're stuck in one area. So that's very nice. I've just for example, I worked in energy, I worked in church, which they will say is consumer retail. I've also worked in defense. I've worked in technology. So it's definitely my favorite part of this job is that I can be basically in about 5 different industries in a year, and you just don't get that in um, too many other um, careers. So yeah, so I'll definitely love to answer any questions about my experiences and kind of hopping around and trying to find a home. And I'll pass it back to Trisha.
Yeah.
Great.
So while we, ooh,
Go ahead, Justice, take it away.
gotcha. So while we do have a lot of different practices here at Kearney, the summer program really focuses on the three you see on your screen right now. So the main two practices being Kearney Analytics and Strategic Operations, while the general practice is kind of a catch-all for everything else. So don't worry if you like are interested in something that you saw on the previous screen that isn't here. There's still that opportunity and that chance that your summer project could be involved in one of those practices, service or industry. That being said, I personally am a part of our analytics practice, which I really enjoy. The purpose of our analytics practice is mainly to generate solutions and solve problems with leveraging data and analytics. So I kind of see this in two different ways. You have the typical kind of analytics support that you would think of when you think of consulting, which is more of there's a problem here and we need insights from data to solve that. But when that data gets either really big or maybe you need more advanced techniques, modeling, and maybe machine learning to get those insights, that's where KA comes into play. And I think the second side of that, which really differentiates us from other practices, is that we're also building solutions that our clients will keep long after Kearney has like left and we're no longer working necessarily on that. So we house a lot of data scientists, engineers, et cetera, who help us build those solutions from the ground up and then tailor them to the needs of the client. So we do this across a lot of different service areas, like you can see, operations and supply chain, consumer and growth, et cetera. But we also do it across a lot of different industries. I know for me personally, I've been at the firm full time for about 9 months, and I think I've already worked across 3 or 4 different industries. So you get a lot of variety. You get to learn a lot while you do it. And I think doing that while having a focus on analytics is why I personally align to Kearney Analytics. But people align for a lot of different reasons. And I think the common vein there is that these are people who want to drive their problem solving and drive their thinking with data and a more quantitative approach. So if that's something that sounds like of interest to you, then please reach out. I'd love to talk more about it and maybe dive deeper.
I am personally aligned to the strategic operations practice. I aligned as an intern. Our operations practice pretty much spans from all of supply chain, from the four towers of plan, source, make, and deliver. The benefit of the SOP practice is it really is the bread and butter of Kearney. Most of the projects I think usually are either related to SOP or SOP focused projects. So you get to know a lot of the core people at the firm while you're working on the projects, get to know some of the bigger clients and like the bigger challenges that we're working on. So it's really interesting to be in the meat of all the work that's going on at Kearney. Um, but and then also like it spans across different industries as well. So you can work in CHIRP, which is our consumer goods practice, a lot of health practice related work as well. So it really overlaps with our bigger clients and practices as well.
So, taking this one back. So, as a journalist, I definitely, like mentioned earlier, you definitely go across pretty much all of the functions, but definitely even other industry practices as well. So, like I mentioned, you can be like EPI, which is our interview practice and procurement, but you can also be in health and your leadership change your organization. And you definitely just get a lot of exposure. And I feel personally, as a generalist, it's your time to explore. Um, if aligning sometime I felt might have maybe given me a little bit pressure to stay in one area, which it definitely doesn't. You can change. But it's just even when you're talking to your like people experience, you kind of can cast your net wide and kind of see where you land. And it's definitely been like a bit of an adventure for me. Just landing in a lot of different industries that I would never think that I would be in. For example, like being in aerospace and defense, like I, studied business generally and had no intention of being in that arena, but it's actually something that I found pretty interesting. And then, you can align later. So, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a part of the practice discovery program for SOP. So I have done, a handful of sourcing projects and strategic operation projects. But again, like while I'm looking at that, I'm also exploring the same thing, and I know I'll have an opportunity to align, as I go on. But you definitely can still align. So, um, yeah, it's really fun, especially for those that I did see a question which I think we're going to get to a little later about like how do you know which one. So like if you have no idea about like am I really interested in a strategy, am I really interested in health or something like that, like just be a generalist, and you will definitely still have opportunities just in case you do want to go down a certain route. But yeah.
Thank you all. Well, we definitely want to make sure that, we are providing even more insight into the work you're doing and how you got involved in the practices. But before we do that and we kind of open up the rest of the time to this Q&A portion, which again, please feel free to send Jen your questions. We also have Slido, so you can definitely share them as well. Ask anything and everything. This is why we want to give you the opportunity. We know this is important as you consider where you want to be this summer. So please feel free to ask any questions. What our recruiting process does look like this year is it is virtual. We do 2 rounds. Our first round is 1 behavioral interview and 1 case interview, and they're both 45 minutes each. Our second round, or our final round, is also virtual. And that will be 3 interviews all back to back, 1 behavioral interview, and then 2 case interviews. Again, all 45 minutes each. We do have a couple resources. So, in addition to some of the things that you're getting from your schools, we do have an interactive case up on our Kearney website. So, please look for that. I think that's very helpful and can guide you through what a case looks like. We also are going to have an upcoming case interview webinar. So, you should see that listed in our newsletter as well as on the website, and you can sign up for that. Our upcoming dates that you should be aware of is that on October 1st, which is quickly approaching, by 11:59 Central Time, we are asking for all of you to submit your resumes for the internship. We will do on October 5th, which is after the interview drop, a business analyst interview overview. So just giving you an idea of what that process looks like more in depth. And give you some tips and tricks to get through it. The week of October 9th is going to be our first round of interviews, and our final round of interviews is October 20th. So again, a pretty quick process coming up, and we're excited to get to know you more through the interview process. So now I would love to leave it open to some Q&A here and to talk with our panelists. Again, listed here is their names and also the practices, again, that they are aligned to. Feel free to, direct your questions directly at them. It definitely helps us to help answer them. Or if you want everybody to answer them, we can go ahead and ask everyone on the panel here, but we are excited to hear from you. And we can go ahead and get started. We do have questions coming through. I will ask this first question and leave it open to anyone on the panel here to answer. But how did you know you wanted to be practice aligned for your internship? How did that come about, and how did you kind of understand where you saw a fit here at Kearney?
Yeah, so I think I can take that one first. So I actually applied as a generalist, and then I think through the interviews and kind of discussing my background with other people and the people interviewing me, we actually kind of found out together that my skill set that I had gotten through college and through my past internships was actually a bit of a better fit for the analytics practice, and it worked out great. I'm still there, still enjoying it. So sometimes you just kind of stumble upon the right place to be.
Awesome. I think that's super helpful. My next question is a little bit more on, your summer experience. What are some surprises? I think you can all take turns answering this. Um, that came up during your summer that maybe you weren't expecting coming out of a summer internship. What surprised you here at Kearney?
I can start off. Oh. I can start off. So I think what surprised me the most was how similar the internship experience was to the actual full-time job. I know a lot of times when you get internships, you're supporting the roles of the main part of the company or whatever role that you're actually in. But when you're at Kearney, the job description of your day-to-day is pretty similar to what you would be doing on an actual project. And the second part of it also is how much of like the end-to-end project experience that you get and training that you get while you're there for the 10 weeks. So while you start off at Kearney, the first couple of weeks, you'll go through some simulations of what the beginning, middle, and end of a project looks like, what questions you should be asking, what your role is within a project, and what your final deliverables should be to be successful. And then you'll finally give off a presentation at the end of your internship that kind of wraps up everything that you've learned and how you've taken away that process throughout. And I think it was very valuable to have that 10-week experience then going in full time to actually feel like you've been in that role before.
Yeah, and I'll second that. I definitely feel like, in my experience, especially with it being more virtual, I was a little shocked about how much ownership I was giving over the work. So I definitely felt like I was contributing to the team And then also I got the opportunity to be exposed to like more C-suite clients, which I was definitely shocked, and that was definitely a new experience for me. So definitely be ready to maybe be in some rooms or just experience that you didn't foresee, especially in other internships. They definitely want you to feel like you're a consultant. They treat you as a consultant, and this is kind of like your trial run. So you won't just be like an administrative, like more administrative on the team. They'll definitely integrate you into it.
Great. Justice, anything that surprised you over the summer?
I mean, I was gonna say pretty much the same thing Emily and Janaya said. It's a lot more responsibility than I expected out of an internship. I was actually able to lead a couple of client meetings, which I definitely did not see coming in as a responsibility that an intern would have. But again, they definitely kind of give you a real experience of what it's like to be a full-time consultant, even though it's an internship.
And I'll say too, they do support you, so you're not just gonna be like thrown into the wolves. I know like you're just leading everything, so yeah, they definitely will support you, but I feel like they just want to empower you. So like they don't want you to just feel like you're going through the motions. You definitely will have plenty of experience to take with you and feel like you can apply it, even if you don't decide or whatever happens at the end.
Great. My next question is around the network that you start to build over the summer. Can you share how impactful the network was that you built at Kearney over the summer, or even just how you built your network over the summer at Kearney, maybe even? And I can open this up to any of you to answer.
Yeah, I can go first. I think the network I built during the summer was super helpful for me, getting started again full time. So coming back in, it felt a lot more comfortable, a lot more familiar. There were some friendly faces that I already knew versus kind of starting a new job and having to build that network from scratch. I think the in office is one of the best ways to build a network. Just going into the office, talking to people, seeing what they're working on, things like that. But outside of that, when you're traveling to other offices, I think it's important to try and talk to people there too. You spend a lot of time in other Kearney offices, and that's a great way to kind of build your network because there's a lot of other people who are going to be on the same level as you are at the time, just in a different office.
Yeah. And also to build on that, similar to the full-time role, when you're in the internship, you get a mentor that will help you. And when you're going through the process, they want you to get as much exposure to the things that you're actually interested in. And then hopefully once you go full-time, be on projects that are actually aligned to your interests or that will push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And your mentor will help you to figure out who those people are that already have the expertise that you should be talking to, and setting up a lot of different coffee chats and just getting to know the practice, or the firm as a whole a little bit more. I think also a huge benefit of being at Kearney is, although our brand is very big, we also have a very small feel to Kearney. So once you get to know a few people in one practice, it kind of feels like you get to know everyone, and everyone's really willing to help get your name out there and help you get to whatever you're really interested in and what you want to grow in.
Fantastic. Yeah, do you want to also answer any
Yeah,
additional input here?
yeah, no. I will also say too. So like if you even like while you're at home or if you're at home at any point during your internship, definitely leverage coffee chats. I know like it can feel very salty. I'm not sure if you said anything, but like definitely leverage them. They know you're an intern too, which kind of gives you, like that they're more eager, maybe even to talk to you. So definitely leverage coffee chats. They can, sometimes be a little daunting, but like get over the first few minutes and you'll be fine. It's just a great way to get to know people, and everybody's very friendly and want to share as much as they can with you, but also hear your story too, because we're a people business. So yeah.
Great. So we touched a little bit on the offices in this question and also before, but maybe you could share, um, why you selected the office you did for the summer. I think that's definitely a big question as, as you go through the application and decide where you want to be. So maybe you can provide some guidance or how you kind of made that selection for yourself.
I think while choosing an internship, it's really like mimicking what you want as a full-time role. So trying new things, like for me, I chose the Chicago office. I grew up in New York, so I was like, I want to try something new. It's a good trial run. If I don't like it, I know I can always go back to the areas that you're originally from. So it was another way to push outside of your comfort zone. But also this past summer, I had the opportunity to help lead the New York office intern program. And through that, I got to see that every office really invests a lot into the intern program and really personalizing it to each office, events that are related to the city, events that will get you outside, get to know people outside of just the working life and get to know Kearney on the weekends and get connections that way as well. So no matter what office you choose, you'll definitely get some sort of cultural side of Kearney too, and everyone's invested in your growth throughout the summer.
I love that. Janai or Justice, anything to add here?
Not for me.
Similar experience?
Yeah.
No, I chose Atlanta
Great.
because it was slightly
That's
different.
great. Okay, so let's move on to another question here. Maybe any recommendations on how to prepare for a summer internship? I know that's probably very top of mind for everyone on this call.
Honestly, the best piece of advice I got before starting my internship was to just relax. A lot of people can kind of get worked up or get a little bit anxious with the anticipation of kind of starting everything, wondering how it's going to go, but just stay calm. I think you'll learn everything you need to know how to kind of handle yourself on the job. So just kind of take a step back, take a deep breath, and just relax as you start the internship.
I definitely echo that. I mean, like, of course, like, you want to practice your skills, you want to practice, like, your fly making and stuff like that, but, like, more than anything, you just want to try to be as comfortable and as yourself as possible. But people appreciate that, but then you'll actually have a good experience. So this is your summer too. You don't want to be like all, stressed the whole time. So, do your best to enjoy it and find those moments, especially for different events and stuff like that. Like, be prepared to try to calm down.
Very helpful advice. um, I know we mentioned that Kearney does have it's not super small, but it has that small feeling. But it would be great to hear from any of you, how you feel, even as business analysts, senior business analysts, how it feels to be working with some of the senior leaders at the firm. Like, what type of exposure did you get during your internship here? And you can even talk about it now that you're back full time a little bit more.
So I think one of the cool things about Kearney is that I don't think that experience changes too much from intern to full time. I think senior level leadership is always readily available to talk, learn more about their practice, what the type of work they do, regardless of where you are, what level you're at the firm. So they've been super helpful for me. I know I scheduled a bunch of coffee chats as an intern, and then coming back to the firm full time. I also kind of did the same thing to learn about the practices and learn about how I can get more involved in things that interested me. And I just put time on their calendar. And if they're not available at that time, they normally work with me to reschedule. So everyone is super approachable and very easy to talk to.
Yeah, I know I said this like a lot throughout this webinar, but I really think that everyone is very interested in your growth. And once you get to build a relationship with senior leadership and they trust you in the work that you do, they're invested in figuring out whatever you're interested in and getting you to that spot, and also getting you to places where you're going to grow as well. So they'll push you on things that they know that you're already excelling in, and what other aspects should you be getting exposure to that you might not even see yourselves. And that will continue on throughout all of your career at Kearney. So partners and principals that you've worked with in the past will continue to pull you into projects knowing what you're good at and what would benefit you the most.
Yeah, and I'll second that too. Through my internship, I actually had like a lot of senior leaders, a lot of partners on our project, and while I also did like do coffee chats, a few of them actually reached out to me to do a coffee chat. So just to show like I would say, I mean, obviously like there's different levels, but I would say like they're not hard to find, and they try to kind of have that more like open door virtual policy. So um, definitely leverage that. Don't be afraid. You know, they're very like down to earth. So
Fantastic. Well, I think we have time for one more question, and I think that this is something we can go down the line and answer as well. Um, but what made Kearney stand out for you as you were selecting a place to be, for the summer? I think that's a super great way. It's a great way to end I think this webinar, and also, help um, our students here learn a little bit more about what makes Kearney a great place.
I think for me, it's the fact that despite being relatively small in size, in terms of like number of employees, we have a huge reach. I think we work with something like 75% of the global Fortune 500 companies, which I think is really cool, which gives you a lot of opportunity since the firm is small to kind of plug into different places that you find interest in. I think one of the best things about Kearney is that you really have the ability to drive your own career and go after kind of the type of work you want to do and the type of work you find interesting.
I definitely second that. And then I think like another element for me, um, it was the people. I had a very good experience as a summer, and I was met with that same experience when I started full time. Everybody's again like very approachable. They want you to grow. Like they're very excited to see their counterparts grow. And sometimes you may not see that everywhere. So that was definitely um, that was a very positive. Like it was very positive for me to see. And yeah, I think you will come to like as more as you get integrated into the firm. People is like a really big thing. Everybody's very nice, even just with our um, kind of our values of having like solidarity and working together with each other. It's a very collaborative environment, and just definitely is a place where you can flourish and you can kind of pave out your path with some great people around you.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. I think how genuine the experience was, even starting with just the interactions with the recruiting team, it was very evident that everyone is very invested and excited for the interns to join. I think even now as a full-time, it's one of the best parts of being at Kearney is during the summertime when all the interns are there, and you can feel that energy when you're talking to the recruiting team, to anyone that you reach out to. Like everyone's very excited for it, and really loves this investment that we make as a firm to the program. So I think feeling that immediately was something that really grabbed my attention, and knew that everyone was very genuine in wanting to the connection and grow.
Well, I think that's a great place to end. And I want to thank you all for joining, and for speaking about your time at Kearney and the internship. Um, we are very excited to continue the process and get to know all of you on the line as well. Again, if we didn't answer your questions, please feel free to send them to our inbox, and we will definitely do our best to get those answers back to you. Enjoy your evening, and thank you all for joining again. Bye.